The home of champions, Karting Genk, scene of many top-level racing drivers' first steps into motorsport competition, and the perfect venue to kickstart the European Championship for KZ and KZ2 gearbox racing, and the start of the 13th annual running of the FIA Karting Academy Trophy. With the heat more intense than ever before for a spring weekend in Belgium, the teams are being challenged on a circuit famed for strong grip, which pushes the tyres and chassis to the limit. Drama is never far away at Genk, and 2022 is likely to be no exception. In the Academy Trophy, 54 drivers aged 11 to 14 are selected from around the world to represent their country in equal machinery. There are no teams, no testing, and no holds barred. The racing is very close, as many will be racing at international level for the very first time. The Academy uses direct drive machinery, whereas KZ and KZ2 is the gearbox discipline of the sport. This is the pinnacle of world karting, where the likes of Max Verstappen and Charles Leclerc proved their skills. The only difference between KZ and KZ2 is the 5 kilogram minimum weight difference, with KZ2 being the heavier. But with 88 drivers in KZ2 and 33 signing up for KZ in 2022, this year could be one of the toughest yet. After Friday morning practice, the grid is split into qualifying groups of 6-minute sessions. The order is then staggered into groups, which are then rotated across 6 qualifying heats in the Academy and 15 races in KZ2, until everybody has raced 3 times in Academy and 5 times in KZ2. Then on Sunday morning in the KZ2 class, the drivers will compete in a pair of superheats, with their results added to the intermediate points from the heats. This sets the grid for the final on Sunday. In KZ, there are just 3 heats before the superheat on Sunday, but the results are added together, which also determines the starting grid for the final. It means that mistakes are punished and clean, smooth racing are rewarded. Senna van Walstein will guide us around the home of champions on a hot lap. Turn 1 starts fairly open and then tightens up under braking, which results in a complex start to the lap. Once through, you can blip the throttle for the next 2 left-handers. Then up to 4, another left, control the back end before a big stop on the brakes and a natural overtaking spot for turn 5. Parallel to the bypass, you then reach turn 6, which is quite fast, but if you clip the bollards in qualifying, you'll be penalised. Carry the speed delicately through the next pair of right-handers that feel like a hairpin despite the straight in between them. Then coax the kart carefully into the apex for the left hairpin. Now you're back on the throttle but heading for Cafe Corner. Careful on the brakes as they are hungry to lock, but kiss the curb on the way through both right and left apexes before a strong run to the final bend. Another natural chance to send it on the inside line for a smooth overtake. Accelerate out and onto the home straight once again for a fast and challenging circuit that will never cease to surprise. In 2021, 49 competitors duelled for the FIA Karting Academy Trophy, with Renaud Francote winning at Wackersdorf, Maciej Gladys conquering the podium at Adria, and after a tough weekend, David Walter triumphing at Kristianstad in Sweden. But it would be Gladys who would take the title after a second-place finish in Sweden, ahead in the standings from Walter and Ukraine's Alexander Bondarev. For the 13th year, the Academy Trophy gathers racers from all over the world to race in equal Expert chassis, Vortex engines and LeComte tyres. It means that it all comes down to skill and racecraft. The Academy Trophy has started in a very competitive manner, with 5 different winners from the first 5 heats of the season. But with Arthur Dorisson of France sealing 2 wins out of 3, he's the favourite to win in Genk. At the start of the final, Dorisson was able to keep his cool into turn 1, ahead of Guillaume Bouzard. But after a few challenges in the first sector, William Goh had demonstrated he wasn't in a mood to wait around, and made the move at the end of the second sector, with Nicolas Roos and Jindro Pezel giving chase. It wasn't a perfect start to the season for everybody, as Gabriel Sarno and Alexander Deshkov were out on lap 1. Luca Horton was making a charge through the pack as he passed Pezel for 5th, but Dino Storescu would crawl to a halt with mechanical failure, much to the Romanians' frustration. The talented Swiss star Chiara Batigue would join him on the sidelines, just moments later. The Titanic struggle for 7th captured everyone's attention in the early stages between Joel Pajola, Jindra Pazel and Caleb Gafrara, and once the two men found their way past Pajola, the Finn was determined to make up for lost time and accidentally banged wheels with Adrian Ferrer. Elsewhere, Mark Dubnitsky would tumble down the order after a short trip over the grass. The three men up front would then trade sector times for the remainder of the duel, as whenever one driver stepped up the pace, the others responded. So Arthur Dorisson led William Go and Guillaume Bouzard, with Nicolas Roos waiting in the wings. Pajola continued to battle with Gafrara as the race continued, with the Finn proving his skill and making the overtake permanent. Go stepped up the pace and closed up on Dorisson once more, but he couldn't quite get close enough to take the ultimate risk. Canadian sensation Hadi Mamassi's brilliant weekend ended in disappointment, but he'll be back for more in Cremona. Pazel then caught and made his move on Alexander Bogdanovic into turn 5, but as the Slovenian retaliated, Pazel ran wide and went airborne over the grass. How he controlled the kart from a nasty accident and then kept going to the finish is a true test of character from the young Czech. Horton then moved up into 4th place, having caught and passed Roos, with the young man from Bahrain not far from the podium. But it would be heartbreak for Tiziano Kuznini, as he would join the list of retirements after a tough weekend at the office. Pajola would be the next man to catch and pass Roos, with the checkered flag nearing all the time. But just 3 laps later, he would be in touch with Horton, and at turn 5 he executed the classic slingshot maneuver, and the deed was done. Sadly, he was too far back for the podium, but he'd made a big impression. The duel up front sadly never really materialised, as all 3 men were so evenly matched throughout. But it meant that Arthur Dorisson could begin his campaign in victorious fashion, ahead of William Go and Guillaume Bouzard. It looks like it's going to be one of the closest seasons yet for the Academy Trophy, so a win in 2022 is even sweeter than usual. After the race, Joel Pajola would receive a 10-second penalty and would drop to 10th, whilst Roos would drop to 7th after a loose front fairing. So Horton would be 4th ahead of Bogdanovic and Pazel, with Roos 7th ahead of Henry Jocelyn and Jack Buckley. France, Philippines and Luxembourg would share the first Academy podium of the season. But with Bouzard, Go and Dorisson so evenly matched on pace, there's a genuine chance that these 3 could battle for the title all the way to Le Mans.
After a good start, William in the back of me, and he mistake. It's good I drive with William at Cremona. Today it's good, and my school it's at Le Mans. It's very good track. My feeling is good.
I mean, in practice we were quickest like every single practice, and then in quali, on a really quick lap actually, we got held up in the last corner where that could have put us on pole, and in each heat I've had to start P2 every single time, and we know that P2 around this track means that you're going to be in the dirty side going into the first corner. It's been great, like the engine was good, the team Forza was good, my management team as well was here with me trying to make sure that we had the perfect type of material and everything was just going right. I would like to congratulate Arthur here right beside me and Guillaume for getting in the podium with me. So yeah, it's been really good this weekend.
So I make a pretty good start. I managed to stay in the front of William, so start P2 and in the first corner P2. Then after, William make a great passing me in the inside, and then we just follow him for trying to catch Arthur, but Arthur was very fast and we could not catch him, and the race was like this. So now I've done 2 consecutive poles, so I'm very comfortable for Cremona and Le Mans because the speed is there and the material is there. I have a great support of Jan Koski, my mechanic, and all my sponsors, ACL Luxembourg and Motor Center, who helped me a lot.
Last season saw some big moments in KZ2, as Senna van Walstein finally struck gold in Wackersdorf and ended the season as vice-European champion. But it was Giacomo Pellini who grabbed the crown after his stupendous victory in Adria after years of hard work. At the International Super Cup, it was the Renzo Travasanuto who claimed the title in Sweden, having been world champion twice before. In 2022, all three men have moved on, so it's time for new names to step forward. KZ2 is one of the most physical forms of motorsport on the planet. Since its inception in 2007, some of the world's best racing drivers have competed to develop their skills and test themselves against the best. This weekend, Tom Luyer has been unstoppable, but with several drivers itching to prove their point and some serious talents emerging, he may not have it all his own way. Luyer launched away ahead of David Trevelov and Marcus Kayak, while Red Bull Junior and KZ2 debutant Arvid Lindblad struggled to get off the line and fell back down the field. Through turn 3, and Daniel Vasile would tangle with Samuel Luyer, and both of their races were over in an instant. By lap 2, Marcus Kayak had decided to make his bid for second place, but David Trevelov was determined to keep him at bay, allowing Luyer a crucial chance to break away. Jorge Pescador would be fourth ahead of Chris Harnon and Norton Andreasen, with the gaps tightening. A lap later, and as Luyer defended, Harnon attacked and forced his Kart Republic ahead of Pescador's CRG. The top three were threatening to storm ahead of the chasing field as the race settled into a rhythm. Matteo Spergel would retire on lap 3 after a spin at turn 6, and after initially restarting, the Sodi kart would be too damaged to continue. Harnon managed to close up on Kayak and eventually made his move into turn 1 to steal a podium position, whilst the two leaders were closer than ever. Pescador tried to take advantage, but being impeded allowed Robert Kinderwarter to sneak ahead. The Spaniard wasn't prepared to accept defeat and charged back ahead of the German just a lap later, and despite tough defensive tactics, he wouldn't relent and made his move stick. Further back, and Thomas Imborg was resolute in defence against Christian Habulin, which allowed Arthur Carbonell to pass former champion Andrea Dale. But Giuseppe Palomba couldn't quite repeat the feat. By the time the tyres had warmed up, Tom Luyer was making good use of the momentum in the lead, but Trefelov, Harnon and Kayak were doing everything they could to stay close, as they knew the race still had a long way to go. But the man who stole the show was Arvid Lindblad with an audacious pass on Norton Andreasen to charge up to 7th, allowing Alessio Piccini and Danilo Albanese to pass as well. This gave the Kart Republic driver a chance, and a lap later, Albanese lined up Piccini into the final bend and secured the position. Behind them, the queue was getting very impatient, with the battle tailing all the way down to 25th, Jean Luyer being the first to take matters into his own hands. In the middle of the squabble, Tim Troger would be spat out of the train, ending his race at half distance. At the same time, Lindblad was continuing his charge and edged past Kinderwarter masterfully. Closing up to Kinderwarter, Albanese felt the opportunity to overtake and made his bid neatly for 7th place. Tim Troger, meanwhile, assisted the marshals to clear the circuit, which meant the race could continue without a caution period. Genis Civico had been waiting patiently to make his move on Piccini, and a decisive lunge into Cafe was rewarded, whilst Christian Abulin was not quite so lucky. Kayak was struggling to keep his tyres in check for the final few kilometres, but Pescador had other problems, with Lindblad breathing down his neck. Into turn 2 on the penultimate lap, the British driver found the narrowest of gaps and didn't need asking twice, Albanese managing to squeeze through in unison. All weekend, Tom Luyer and the Leclerc by Lennox racing team had been the class act of the event, and what better way to return from injury than to dominate in style at Genk. The Frenchman had waited a long time for his first win at European Championship level, ahead of David Trevelov and Chris Harnon. But in this current form, the rest of the field may need a miracle to catch up to the man at the top of the table. With Marcus Kayak ahead of Arvid Lindblad and Danilo Albanese, Jorge Pescador would lead home Robert Kinderwarter, Jean Luyer, and the new recruit for KZ2, Norton Andreasen. A maiden podium for Haanen and a close battle between Trefilov and Luye sets us up for a thrilling climax at Cremona, with a new track putting everybody on a level playing field. Who knows what drama will unfold? But for now, it's time to celebrate, karting Genk style!
Yeah, it was a good final. The first lap was difficult. You have Trefilov behind me. So I need to close the door, 5 lap, and after it's a little bit more easy. And I stay focused on my goal, dragging all to the final because I want to win. It's my first victory here in the CIK, so it's incredible. I can't believe it. I'm really happy. Everybody make a really good job. We need to stay focused, and we will see at Cremona.
Yeah, P2 in the end, I think it's also a good result. Everyone wants to win, also we. Yeah, the pace in the beginning was really good, but in the end it was like we were too slow. Finished second, we collected good points for the championship, and I think it's a good start for the series.
We always knew we were going to be strong with new tires. Just had a lot of trouble with tire wear in the heats. My tires were just gone too quickly. So I was able to get 2-time second place in the first and second heat, but after that we were struggling a little. But I still managed to be able to start in P10 for the final. And yeah, when we were going to put new tires, I knew that we were going to be fast. And yeah, in the start I immediately went up into P5. Then I passed 2 more guys, and yeah, I was quite fast in the end also. Just not enough to catch David, but certainly something we can be proud of.
It's been a very tough weekend, just to maintain the consistency, because as Tom has shown, he's been very fast. But no, I'm proud of the team. I'm proud of all of my guys and the attention to detail that they're really looking into. Couldn't really ask for more for Tom's race. Even in the KZ1 we had also a great weekend for the championship. But no, for Tom's first, let's say, European Championship race with the team after a big crash some years ago, it's great to see him have such a strong comeback.
Riccardo Longhi kick-started 2021 with a fantastic victory at Wackersdorf in a season where he shared driving duties with being Birolart team manager. And he would go on to win the European title when Paolo Ippolito claimed the victory at Adria, his first at European KZ level. But a few months later at Kristianstad, the man who was born and bred at the Swedish track, Noah Millell, claimed an emotional World Championship crown, 25 years after his uncle Johnny Mistievich had done the same. But how will the fight play out in 2022? The only major difference in KZ compared to KZ2, bar the reduction in minimum weight by 5 kilograms, is the chassis and brakes being open rather than a strict regulation. It's where the professional paid drivers for the top teams will quest for glory, and it's affectionately described in motorsport as Formula One without the money. Emilion Denner and Sodikart have been rapid from the outset, but with multiple world and European champions sharing the grid with rising youngsters, 2022 could be the most competitive season in KZ history. A drag race to the first corner between Emilion Denner and Paolo Ippolito resulted in the Frenchman leading into turn 1, with Matteo Vigano holding off the challenge from Pedro Hiltbrand and Jorrit Pex. The Spanish star was ruthless on the opening lap and wrestled his way into third position, whilst Lorenzo Travasanuto was manoeuvring himself smartly into fifth position, ahead of Pex. The tough scrap for position in the midfield amongst the Tony Kart factory drivers ended in retirement for Finland's Simo Pohaka after a frustrating weekend plagued by bad luck. The other Paralin of Francesco Salenta was trying to work with Senna van Waalstein to move ahead of the pack. 2 world champions met head-to-head as Pex stormed ahead of Travasanuto. He was so stunned by it that his teammate Salenta edged in front as well, with Van Waalstein seeking a chance to take on his rival. Fresh from their KZ2 duels last year, Van Waalstein challenged Travasanuto and pulled ahead, with Stan Pex thwarted in his attempts to join him. Now that the kart was up to speed, Vigano made his attack on Hiltbrand into the first corner, and despite kicking the curb, he was able to accelerate clear into third position. The youngest man on the circuit, Tuka Tarpanen, was learning about KZ the hard way, as 2020 world champion Jeremy Iglesias was giving CRG a much-needed run towards the top 10. After a season of hard work and perseverance, the chassis is finally getting its way back up the grid. Denno was settling into a strong position ahead of Ippolito, who, try as he might, couldn't quite close the gap, allowing the Frenchman to stretch away. Elsewhere, Travazanuto wouldn't rest behind his colleague for long, and Salenta would eventually yield at turn 6 with 10 laps to go. Whilst the Paralin squad settled their differences amicably, two world champions almost came to blows as Pex dived inside Hiltbrand at the final bend and claimed 4th position. After poor starts in previous years, it looked like the Dutchman was finally back to his best. The Sodikart star Van Walstein was still pursuing Travazanuto and realised that he'd have to pass Salenta too. Over the next few laps, the tyres started to eat away, and Ippolito was falling into the clutches of Vigano. But once again, it would be a brutal stalemate. Emilion Denner controlled the pace with wisdom and tenacity in the closing stages, and despite the intense challenge from one of the strongest KZ fields in history, he would give Sodikart their second FIA karting win in as many weeks after their OK Junior triumph in Thuera. Having never achieved consecutive wins across two disciplines in as many meetings, the hard work from the French outfit may be a turning point after years of toil and relentless development. In the Denner household, the party was just getting started. Ippolito and Vigano were hunted down by a trio of world champions, with Pex ahead of Hiltbrand and Travazanuto. Van Walstein stayed ahead of Salenta and Iglesias, who led home Stan Pex to complete the top 10. There were mixed emotions on the podium: relief for Vigano after a tough weekend, frustration for Ippolito, who felt a win was possible, and elation for Denner after so much bad luck has finally turned to victory, and it could be the first of many.
First of all, we were really confident coming into this weekend. We've had the speed in every race this year. We've worked pretty good on Thursday, setting up the car perfectly, and then Friday on quali was absolutely perfect. I matched the perfect lap with the perfect slipstream and everything, so it was really good. Then the 3 heats went well, won all 3 of them, and then the super heat we struggled a bit with the used tire, but in the end we know coming into the final with the new tire we will be really fast again, so that's what happened, and really happy, thankful for the work of the team, also TM Racing for the engines, and yeah, Sodikart and CPP for the material.
So we had a really good week. Performance was good in all the heats, also in qualifying session. I didn't make my best lap because I found someone during my fly lap, but performance was there, and we arrived at the super heats, really competitive, and we won. So really confident also for the final, and we finished second. For sure, it's a good result, not enough for me because I would like to win also the final. Also confident for next race in Cremona, second position for the moment in the standings, so I'm okay.
Well, the minimum goal for the weekend was the podium, so we are happy because we managed to reach it at the end. And after the Saturday heats was, I think I expect to fight for the second and third, because for the win we miss a little bit, because Emiliana show a good speed and I think a better pace. Overall, I cannot complain, and we will see in Cremona. I see in the past years like several drivers win the championship with third and fourth place, so everything open for the last round.
Amazing to be back here, back with a win in the KZ1 after Zuera with the OKJ. Everybody working super hard, and yeah, really happy with the performance. Yeah, unbelievable drive. Yeah, really can't describe exactly how happy I am at the moment, but yeah, it's a good feeling and good to be here.
For the first time in the modern era, France sweeps the top step of the podium in all three categories. For Dorisson, Louillet and Denner, all three have started their seasons in the best possible fashion. And if the pace continues in KZ and KZ2 for both men, we could see the first European karting champion at senior level from France since 1986. But there are still questions to be answered, as several drivers could turn the table around, as we've seen many times before. With only 2 weekends to quest for the crown, they can't afford any mistakes. For now, they are preparing for more battles at the season finale at Cremona in Italy. Before that, our attention will switch back to the OK categories next month at Kristianstad in Sweden. So until then, the kings of karting are all from France.